I gotta get your facts right. Deep dive and get baptized. Black business, black life, black money, black power, black pride. And the POCs tryna see those V's like a casino. Sitting on TOP, we just spitting our POV. We gon' ride till we on E. We pushing the pedal, we over the limit. We never gon' settle, we been with the business. Every episode is gon' be the realest. Every week you gotta pay us a visit. Come on and hang, hot as a flame. Hating is lame, taking the aim. Changing the game, staying our lane. Breaking the chain, making it rain. Making it hurricane. Kia Crew, now you heard the name. The Black Fundraising Podcast, that's on everything.
Hello, hello.
Hey there. That's enough to get you excited and hyped for the day.
Yes. Yes. Give me my theme music.
I love it. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you love it. It loves you too. Good people out there. It's your favorite fundraiser, Kia Crew. And today I'm joined by one of my favorite fundraisers, Miss Crystal Cherry, the board pro.
Yeah.
Why is she here today? She's here today because with everything that is going on, and it's a lot, but when we think about everything that is going on, the executive orders that are coming down, the divestments from equity, diversity, and inclusion. We want to talk about the implications these events pose for nonprofit fundraising, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning within your organization, right? If whether you're a board, you're a CEO, the implications of what's playing out in the streets here and in these policies and EOs, yeah, they have the potential to impact our work, right, in a real way. So that's what we're talking today is, managing board expectations for revenue goals, right? And I couldn't think of anyone more appropriate to have this conversation with than the board pro herself.
Thank you.
How you doing, Crystal?
I'm good. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's just so interesting. I was at a philanthropy conference last week, and I met people from all over the world. Folks from Nepal, folks from the United Kingdom, Nairobi, San Salvador, Brazil. I mean, just everywhere, the US. And it really gave me embodied hope, seeing folks that are just as outraged by what's happening here, and the implications of it for the global community.
Right.
People who are in need, people who are hurting right now. And it was just a good reminder that, yes, there are people who care. And yes, there are people who refuse to turn a blind eye to what's going on and are yet rolling up their sleeves to see what kind of social change they can affect on an individual or even on a micro, macro level, right?
Yes.
But let's talk about these boards.
Yeah, I mean, I think boards now have a really pivotal role. They're the governing bodies of our nonprofit. And so the first thing they need to do is to model leadership, right? And what that looks like is first checking in on their chief executive, their CEO, their executive director, checking in on him or her, because more than likely they're probably stressed out with all that's going on, all that you've just mentioned. The job was already a stressful job even before these incidents have been going on here in the last 2 months. It was already a stressful job, but now even more so, now that many of their budgets are being impacted because of some of the federal cuts, right? And I think people overall are just panicked, regardless of whatever sector you're in, but certainly in the nonprofit sector. And so the first thing boards should do is check in with their executive to make sure that he or she is okay, make sure that they have the resources they need, make sure that they are managing work-life balance. This is a good time to go out to lunch with them, to go out to coffee with them, and just say, hey, what's going on? How are things going inside your organization? What's the pulse of your staff? How are they feeling? I think that's the first thing that they should do is just to make sure their executive is okay emotionally, because it takes stamina to lead, right? And it takes stamina to lead in times of crisis. And you want him or her to show and model leadership for their staff. And so the board should start off by doing that. And then once they do that, I think they need to talk about resources to make sure that your executive has the resources that he or she needs in order for them to run effectively. These cuts may impact staff. They may have to cut staff. They may have to cut programs. They may have to cut services. And so that's stressful for the executive director and for the staff. And so I think it's the onus is on the board to make sure that they sit down with the executive director to go over what's happening. And I know that I serve on the board, and we recently did that. We sat down with our chief executive. We talked about what's going on in the federal government and how it's impacting our budget. And then we talked about 3 different scenarios. And if this happens, this is what we should do. If this happens, this is what we should do. And if this happens, what we should do. How will we respond if we have to cut staff? What will we say to our funders? How will we share with our staff if we have to cut programs? Right? Do we have enough monies in reserve in the event we have to rely on that and federal funding stops altogether? Right? So we came up with all these different scenarios and talked with her about that to just make sure that if each one of these scenarios happened, that we had a plan. Like, we came up with what would you call a business contingency plan, kind of an emergency plan, if you will, to make sure that we're covered. Of course, something could happen that we don't even expect. But at least we came up with 3 different scenarios that should those 3 things happen, we have a plan of action. And I think having thought partners and thinking ahead and being forward thinking is really what the executive director and what organizations need right now. So if you don't have people in those seats who can be that for you, if you have people who are in those seats who are dragging you or who are not contributing, they're not coming to meetings, they're not engaging, now is the time to get them out and to find the people who will. So the first thing you need to do is check your board composition. Who's sitting around the table? Who are the people who are supposed to be in here helping me when times get hard like this, right? And have a really important conversation with your board chair and say, listen, we don't have the right people at the room. I can't do this by myself. And I don't have people in here who are going to engage with me, who are going to be thought partners with me, who are going to stand with me in times of crisis. Then y'all are setting me up for failure, right? And absolutely. I say to all my executive directors and chief executives, if you don't have a board that's doing that and they're not willing to make any changes, maybe now it's time for you to get your hat, right? Because they are setting you up for failure. Seriously, if they're not going to be there to support you when the it hits the fan, then you're going to be left holding the short stick. And so that is part of my advice when I talk to my clients.
No, this is really good. What I heard was board members. It's a good time to check in with your chief executive officer, right? And this does not have to be super uber formal. We just want to be a human being.
Right.
We just want to be a human being. The formalities with what's going on can go out the window. They don't have to wear a suit. You ain't got to wear one either.
Right. Exactly.
Just show up and fellowship over some breakfast or brunch, And then I heard you say, check on the composition of your board.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the dead weight? Where's the dead weight, right? Mm-hmm. Because here's the reality of this. We ran the figures based on what the Fundraising Effectiveness Project reported. We took a look at donor giving, donor counts between, I want to say, 2016 and 2020 when, the Trump administration had its first merry-go-round, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what that data determined or posited is that organizations would do very, very well to steward the donors that they have, right? To
Right.
steward the donors that they have, those stalwart donors, right? Those are the donors that you want to continue showing love to. Those are the donors that are giving, that respond when you send out an appeal. They're giving you feedback. They're showing you that they're in it to win it,
Yep.
right? You
Yep.
want to make sure that your fundraisers are stewarding those donors, because the research shows that those donors will continue to give year over year, right?
Right.
And one thing that I know that I remember during the first merry-go-round of the administration, and I'm using merry-go-round for a reason. I remember, um, how the president would say things. He would just literally get on his soapbox and say things. And the things that he would say, or even some of the administration's actions, for instance, separating the migrant children and parents, who doesn't remember how horrendous that was,
Mm-hmm.
right? When
Mm-hmm.
those babies were being separated from their parents, and you had ordinary people like me and you holding hands, standing around those buses trying to prevent them from taking those kids away.
Mm-hmm.
You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Things like that were happening, and I'll never forget. I was working at the Children's Defense Fund as their frontline fundraiser, highest producing fundraiser, and people would literally call and say, "I want to make a gift because I don't believe this administration cares about children, and I can't take it." You
Mm-hmm.
know, so one of the things that we've got to do is make sure that, in addition to having those conversations with our board members, we're really having conversations with them regarding some of the mechanics, high level, of what our fundraising strategies look like,
Right.
right? We're making a more conscientious effort to steward the folks that are hanging in the balance with us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
You
yeah, and I want to double click on that. I think that's really important what you just said. The fact
Yeah,
that we have some donors who have been hanging with us for years. This is the time, right? If you haven't checked in with them recently, this is the time for you to meet with them in person, not even on Zoom. If you can meet with them in person, this is a time for you, like you said when we talked earlier about having an informal lunch with your board members. This is the time to have that lunch with your main funders and your main donors who have been sticking in there, your major donors who have been giving you thousands of millions of dollars. This is the time for you to sit down with them. Even bring a board member with you and say, we sat down as a board and as a staff, and we've come up with some scenarios, because your funders and your donors are watching you, right? They
yeah,
want to
they
see
are.
how you're going to respond in these times of crisis, and so you want to affirm and ensure them that you have sat down and you've crunched the numbers, that you and your board have done that, and that you have a plan in the event something goes wrong. Your organization is ready to respond. And so that's what they want. They want confidence. They want to feel confident in the fact that the money that they're spending with you, the money that they're investing in your organization, is going to be spent wisely and prudently, and the people that you're serving are going to be protected. And so this is the time for you to check in. Send them the newsletter, send them the annual report, send all the things you normally send, but pick up the phone, not
Pick
even
up
the
the
email, pick up
phone.
the phone and call them and just say, I'm talking about your big funders. Pick up the phone and
Yes,
call them and just say, hey, listen, just want to check
yes.
in. I sent you the annual report last week. I wanted to make sure you received it. But I also want to just bring you up to date that my board and I have been meeting, and we've talked about what's happening in the administration. We've talked about
Yes.
some different scenarios, and we are ready to respond in the event all of these things go left, and make them feel good and confident about their investment in you. So I really wanted to double click on that. That was a really good point.
Absolutely.
And, I think they should do that. Hmm.
Absolutely. And people that are in organizations that are on a fiscal year calendar, it's not lost on me that you're just a few months away from your next fiscal year. You know, it's a really, really great time to look at your fundraising plan. Do you have one? Your fundraising strategy. What is your revenue goal for FY26 for individual giving,
Right,
right?
right,
What is your revenue goal for institutional partnerships? You know, what is your revenue goal for special event revenue, right? This is a really good time to look at what your revenue goals, how your revenue goes for FY26 look, right, informed by how they looked in the current fiscal year, right, or in
right,
the current rolling calendar year, right? You
right,
want to look at where you are and you want to begin to, make what I call incremental forecast upticks.
right,
So for the board members that are saying, okay, well, we had $500,000 in institutional revenue last year, $500,000. You think we can double that? No.
mm,
Do you want to put that pressure on your team to double that? Or do we want to look at it incrementally? Look at who, disaggregate that. Look
mm-hmm,
at who contributed that $500,000, right? And check their temperature on whether or not they're going to return, whether or not you can count on them for a renewal gift and at what amount. That way we can forecast what healthy revenue growth looks like over the next 12 months, as opposed to just loading these lofty expectations and hoping that our fundraising teams can meet them.
well,
What am I saying?
there's a
Huh?
couple of things here. First of all, if your new year is starting April 1 or July 1, like you said, it's coming up in the next couple of months, the first thing board members need to do is make their own personal donations, right? And this is the time to,
You better
especially
believe
for
it.
those small nonprofits, they need flush money at the beginning of their fiscal year. You know, if you got 10, 12, 13 board members and each person is responsible to give $1,500 or $1,000, that's $20,000 right off the top, right in the bank account, right? And that's going to certainly help. So the first thing you need to do is make your own personal donation. The second thing you
Yes.
need to do is to make sure that that funding office, that fund development office is staffed adequately with the right people at the table again, making sure
Mm-hmm.
that they have the resources, the right software, making sure that there's a travel budget if your fundraiser needs to travel, right? Making sure that whatever your fundraising department needs in order for it to function adequately, and even more so, you need to make sure that this is not the time to divest in fundraising. This is the time to make sure you invest in your fundraising department to give it the resources that it needs in order for it to go out. It takes money to raise money. So this is not the time to lay off fundraising people. This is not the time to, to have, well, we're just going to give one person that job and let the
Yeah.
development coordinator go. This is time to make sure the fundraising department has its resources. So you're right. So make sure that they're equipped and tooled up to get ready to start the brand new fiscal year. And then, oh, you got your cherry. And then, like you said, then take a look and say, okay, well, what are the fundraising goals? A lot of times, board members don't even know what the fundraising goal is. They haven't even seen the fundraising plan. I have asked, and I've seen deer in the headlights looks when I ask them that. A lot of them don't even know. If I say to them, what are the priorities of the organization right now? If you received $1 million anonymous donation and it was unrestricted, where would you put those funds? What's the priority? And I get these glazed looks. Like I said, everybody needs to know what the priorities of the organization right now. If you got $1 million in the door, you should be able to say, we need more software, we need more staff, right? We need more this. And if you don't know that as the board, then you're doing the organization a disservice by serving on that board.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm hearing, check on folks, right? Check on folks. I'm hearing check the composition of your board. These are things that you can get off of this pod and do right now. Start doing, check the composition of your board. Who's been giving or who's been contributing or wants to be a part of the fundraising process, and we know that with our board members, we want board members to walk in their strengths, right? So board members that may not necessarily be as comfortable as others making an ask, right? Do we use a peer-to-peer model to simplify the process of, their fundraising, where they can share, a website with their buddies or, the folks they golf with, etc., right? As
Yes,
opposed to having a one-on-one meeting with a funder and soliciting them, right?
yes,
We want to be looking at where our strengths lies,
right,
right? And
right.
then lastly, like, Crystal said, it's very, very important that we be investing in our fundraising, right? In travel and, investing in ourselves in such a way that we, look the part, right?
Hmm.
Because, let's be real about it. You got to spend money to make money,
Right,
right?
right.
And we want to make sure that, folks are adequately supported, in this goal, especially when you have people that are away from their homes, away from their family, beating the bushes and trying to raise money for their respective organizations. You want to make sure that people are comfortable and have everything that they need when they're on the road, right? Because research shows that when people's subsistence needs are met, they'll rise to the occasion, right?
Right.
I think this boils down to being a human being
Hmm.
and being able to see one shared humanity.
Yes.
um, I think that for board members and CEOs, I really do think that it's a really, really important time in which we should be really looking at, our fundraising performance metrics,
Hmm.
and being, extending some grace, because we're going to see some off kilter kinds of things, because this is not normal business.
Right. Empathy
This
and
is not
compassion is
normal
really
business.
important right now, Kia. Empathy and compassion is really important. But
Yeah.
I think you also said something. I think being smart and looking at your, forecasting and looking at your next fiscal year and saying things like, we've been doing this event for the last 3 years. It hasn't really brought us the return that we wanted. Maybe this year we forfeit the event and we use that money in some other way, and we figure out another way to creatively let the world know the good work that we're doing. But if we've been spending a lot of money at the Marriott Hotel, putting on a big gala for the last 3 years, and it hasn't really brought us the return, maybe we need to maybe we need to take a different course and try to figure out another path to get that revenue. So I think it's a good time now to say, where can we make some cuts? Right, where we don't see the return that we're looking for. If direct mail
Mhm.
is it, if events are it, whatever it is, let's try to think smarter for 2026.
Let's think smarter and let's remove the bureaucracy around making these decisions,
Hmm.
right? If we know the gala has got us upside down, if we know we've been upside down with the gala for the last 2 years, we can't afford to be upside down another year, right?
Hmm.
Perhaps it's time to look at another strategy,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
So these are some of the things that I think are important and Crystal thinks are important when we think about level setting our board members. And the last thing I want to say is I'm talking to a lot of organizations that are doing this work, right? That are working on, their stretch goals or their fundraising targets. And my rule of thumb or my advice is to look at the previous year's revenue across a particular strategy, let's say special events. Um, your special events revenue, if it wasn't quite where you wanted it to be, and it doesn't make sense to continue having these galas, because they're not profitable. Yeah, it's time to get rid of those, right? And what can we use the time and energy that we would have invested in putting on a successful gala? Maybe we can put some efforts and energy into re-engaging donors, right? So maybe our individual giving, our annual fund, maybe if we launch a campaign to reactivate lapsed donors, we'll see a return on that.
Right.
And possibly we could set a goal to increase individual giving annual fund revenue by 10 to 15%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not 50, not 40. What I'm advocating for is very incremental upticks right now,
Right.
right?
Right.
Very incremental upticks, because again, this is not normal business.
Right. And I think, as I said earlier, when I said that your funders and donors are watching you, I know that they are. I think this is a time for your board to get into that community, whatever community that you're serving. I've asked so many boards, have you been to the shelter? Have you been to the after school program? Have you read to the children? Have you gone to the hospital? And a lot of them have said no. And so this is the time for your board to get into those communities that you're actually serving, to actually get in there and get their hands dirty. This is the time for you to take pictures and take videos and show compelling efforts by the board to really, really be engrossed in what's going on in that community. That's what's going to impress your funders right now during this time. That's what's going to impress your donors when they see pictures of your board actually in the actual community, doing the dirty work, doing the work that a lot of our staff are doing, boots on the ground, and they can see that they're not only invested from a leadership perspective and even from a financial perspective, but from a personal perspective. I'm serving dinner. I'm talking to the homeless people. I'm talking to the women who are, who have cancer, whatever it is. And these are the stories that are going to appeal and resonate with your donors. And they need to see that your board is invested in many different ways.
No, you are absolutely right. Well, I want to thank you for stopping by and chit-chatting with me. It's always a joy. This is really, really important stuff, because we know that board governance, can make or break an organization. So we hope that the information we've shared here has been helpful to you. I'd be remiss not to acknowledge that this episode is brought to you by a Tutu Apothecary and Tea Room. My tea company and apothecary, where I make artisan loose leaf teas and other herbal products. You can visit us online at www.atutuapothecary.com to see what a sister is up to there. Crystal, I thank you so much, and I know that I will see you very, very soon. It's always a pleasure. Anything you want to say to the folks before we bounce out of here?
No, well, first, I just want to thank you for having me on to talk about this important conversation. I really want boards to lean into their power to really affect change during this time. Because we need your leadership. People are looking for strong leaders right now, and the light is on you. And we want to make sure that you are stepping up and providing the support and guidance that you committed to providing.
Amen. Much agreed. And just like that, folks,
in a position very few people have been in. Now we on the money mission. We on the money mission. If they didn't listen, then they didn't have the vision. Cool, we on the money mission. We on the money mission. Get your money up, money up, money up, money up, money up. Get your money up, money up, money up, money up, money up. Get your money up, money up, money up, money up, money up. Get your oars.